What's going on? YouTube Metal Complex here, and today I'm going to be comparing two very popular knives. The good old Spyderco PM2. Mine has got some aftermarket scales on it, but it'll serve just fine. And of course, the new and extremely popular Spyderco Kapara, or Kapara, however you like to say that. Now, not everybody is going to agree with me, but in a lot of ways, the Kapara is extremely comparable to the Para 2, absolutely. There's a lot of similarities in handle shape and profile. There's just changes and tweaks. And, you know, the first thing that I thought when I looked at the Kapara is, wow, this looks like a incredibly upgraded, super fancy version of the PM2. But does that make it absolutely a better choice all the way around for every single person? I don't know. This isn't going to be a typical battle video. You guys who have been around for a while know my battle videos. I've got a playlist, but it is still going to go in that playlist. I'm just not going to do the thing where I, go through and score everything. We're just going to look at the two knives, and then I'm going to give you guys my thoughts afterwards. By the way, both of these knives are still ridiculously popular. I'm not saying that everybody should go out, like every single person needs to own a PM2, but the PM2 is definitely a knife that I think everybody should experience, so I always recommend it. A lot of you guys already know, down in my description, I decided to kind of group together some of the most popular EDC folding knives and EDC gear that's been out there for years, as well as some of my own personal favorites. And I just sort of put them together and categorize them so you guys can find them really easily. So if you'd like to, check out the description. I've got everything kind of nicely laid out. And so first off, let's take a look at some measurements here. I just did the review on the Kapara. So if you guys don't know, extremely recommendable. The Kapara is a nearly perfect knife. We're going to talk about a few things here. So tip to scale, you're looking at about 8.3 inches overall on the Spyderco PM2. You're looking at about 8 1/4 on the Kapara. So, it's a trivial difference in length. Blade length, you're looking at about 3.5 inches on the PM2, and you're looking at about 3.6 inches on the Kapara. Cutting edge on the PM2, you're looking at only about 3 1/8. Cutting edge on the Kapara, 3.5. That's the first advantage that the Kapara has on the PM2, and it's by a long shot. They still managed to get the forward choil in there, meaning you get that choke up position that I always talk about how much I like, right? Without sacrificing any cutting edge. The cutting edge, the part of the cutting edge that matters is guided completely away from anything that might get caught in the path of it. Comparatively here, you can see, either way, there's a hole there, but it's completely away on either one of these, but there's not quite as much of a gap between the cutting edge and the handle. So you're getting a true 3.5 inches of cutting edge on the Kapara, and only it's like 3.1, 3.2 maybe on the Spyderco PM2. It's like, what did I say it was? 3 1/8? Yeah, it's just over 3 inches. So that's awesome. What's the blade thickness on the two? Let me go ahead and do that real quick. Zero them out. Tell you right now, I'm pretty sure the Spyderco PM2 comes in at about 145 thousandths. Yeah, about 145 thousandths there, but it's notoriously slicey. It doesn't necessarily have to be ultra thin on the spine to be incredibly slicey. Now the Kapara is coming in at only, oh, that can't be right. Let's try that again. Let's zero out. Let's try this again. It's starting out at about 130 thousandths. But I'll tell you what, both of them have performance edges. Both of these knives get nice and thin behind the edge. They're not like the most, I want people to understand. I'm not saying you're going to be able to go do surgery on a grape with either of these knives, but are they going to slice? Is it going to feel good while you're cutting? Are you going to get that, oh yeah, that nice, yeah. Are you going to be able to cut chunks out of an apple? Yeah, you're going to be able to do that. Both are excellent. Coming down to the tip, I said in the video that the Kapara has probably a stronger tip. I'm not 100% certain about that. Both of them have pretty delicate tips. Neither of these knives, I would say, are knives that you would take out and, beat on or try to baton things with, and they don't feel like that either. And a lot of people are like, well, if I can't jam a folding knife between, into the mortar between two bricks on the side of a building and scale it, then it's not the folding knife for me. That is ridiculous. These knives are EDC tools. A lot of people might say tactical folding knives. They are meant to be used as a catalyst of convenience, and I think they both serve that purpose well. Definitely, especially in the deployment department, both of them utilizing the compression lock, both of them having a nearly kind of sort of fall shut action. The Kapara really doing a good job of that. These new CQI versions are awesome. Again, not saying anybody who's already got the original version of it, you don't need to run out and buy the CQI version of it. But man, these things just, oh God, that feels so good. But both are excellent. Both can be adjusted to your liking. The PM2, there's a chance you're going to be a little bit off center when you get it, but it's really not that big of a deal. We'll talk about price and what to expect here in a sec. But both have excellent locks. Both have a good deployment. Now, this is one of the few areas where, in my opinion, the Kapara is not quite as good as the PM2. And it's because of the profile of the blade. This part right here, this thumb ramp, it's very, we'll call it an aggressive thumb ramp, not because of the jimping, just because of how quickly it sort of moves up. It's to make room for that hole, and the reason is so that you have room to engage the hole, and it's very easy. I think a lot of the reason people really feel like an organic connection with the PM2 is because of how easy it is to engage and disengage. I actually used to say that the PM2 made me nervous about carrying because I felt like I didn't have quite a grip on it. Over time, carrying this thing, this is in my rotation, I've completely changed my mind. The PM2 is one of the easiest knives to engage out there. You can see right here, I've gotten very used to it. It literally feels like an extension of my hand. You have so much room to engage that hole on either side, whether it's here and you're doing a thumb flick, or it's back here and you're doing this flick, or some people actually, do some of you guys use your index finger? Yeah, okay, I guess I can do that. Same thing on the Kapara. In fact, I would say it's well above average for engaging it like that. It's very easy to do the thumb flick, but there's less room here to engage it. And you can also do the reverse flick, but again, you have a little bit less room. And that's because there's not quite as much of a rise on the back of that blade, and the hole is more sunk down into the handle. Now, the benefit of that is that it has a better carry profile. You can see here, we're looking at a much higher knife. We'll actually measure it, or a much taller knife at the highest point. The Spyderco PM2 coming in at about 1.75 inches from that area. And the Kapara at its widest points, we'll measure here, a little over 1.25, maybe 1.3, 1.4. How about down here? A little, maybe 1.4. So you definitely have a better carry profile. And in terms of thickness, the Spyderco Kapara, not nearly as thick as the PM2, even when taking into consideration that the scales are contoured. So you're going to sacrifice basically a little bit of convenience of deployment and ease of access to the deployment mechanism, which is that Spidey hole, for the knife to be a little bit easier on the pocket, a little bit easier on the profile. I can understand that. It's the same, but I want to point this out. It's the same thing that I said in the Kapara video. Why couldn't we just have a scallop right here? Just a little bit. Kind of a, what do I have that's got that? XM18, perfect example. Scallop. That's a way to access that thumb stud, which is already not really in the most optimal position. That's partially because of the design and the fact that it doubles as external, the thumb studs act as external stop pins, but they could have added a scallop here. Yes, it might have taken away a little bit from the aesthetic appearance of it, or just sort of the flow of everything, but I would argue you've got better access to both sides, and then you're not changing anything up on the, the whole carry profile benefit thing, and it makes sense to me, right? I just really would have liked that, but it's not a deal breaker. It is a minuscule little nitpick, no big deal. Let's take a look at the hardware between the two. There is a bit pivot bushing inside the new ones. They both run on phosphor bronze, which is great. That's what they should be running on. This pivot's a little bit more dressy. Whatever, it looks nicer all the way around. I mean, some people are still going to prefer the basic look of the PM2. All the way around, I think the Kapara just looks a lot better. The T8 pivot is much better. These screws back here are on the PM2, I believe, are T8. Let's take a look. T8. By the way, this is down there too. You guys know my Weia bit selector, my drive. I got so much stuff down there. I took a lot of time, like just picking out the stuff that I love and putting it down there in the description. So take a look when you get a chance if you want any of this stuff. But yeah, these are T8, which is great. Same thing on the Kapara. This is a T8. Yep, T8. That's perfect. They got that exactly right. So easy to take these things apart because You don't have to switch out your bits when you're making an adjustment. That's actually, I'm wrong. That might actually be a T9. Let's look here. Make sure you guys know. There's T9. Yeah, it's T9. That's fine. So you're going to have to switch it out. I always assumed that was a T8. You're going to have to go from T9 to T8. But the biggest benefit is that you don't have to worry about your dinky little T6, this size, this dinky little T6 stripping, or more likely the T6 body screws in a knife that's using T6, like the Benchmade Bug Out. Ugh, those T6 just makes me nervous. Bug Out's down there too. Like, shut up, Complex, we get it. You've got links down there. But, you know, this is the way that every knife should be done. T8 body screws. It's so easy. There's only 2 body screws. Now, the PM2 has a huge disadvantage, though, in terms of disassembly. It sucks getting your scales over that lanyard tube. Every time I've had to replace the lanyard tube if I want to put custom scales on it. You don't necessarily have to take the scales off the tube if you're just going to break it down for maintenance. No, you can kind of sort of scissor it out like this and clean it. But if you're going to put custom scales on, then yeah, that's going to be a problem. I'm not going to say it's a direct disadvantage just because in terms of maintenance, most people will probably not change out the scales. Most people will probably not change out the scales on the Kapara either. So breaking them down and doing maintenance, it's probably going to be about the same. Now on mine, I've got a custom Flytanium backspacer on there, and I've got the Deep Carry MXG clip. Do I think that the backspacer is necessary? No, I don't think custom scales or a backspacer is absolutely necessary. Give you guys a look at the original pocket clip here. I can't remember which Spyderco this came off of. I don't think it was off of this one, but there's the original pocket clip. It's okay, but a lot of the PM2 was sticking up out of my pocket, and the knife already felt wonky being very handle heavy. I mean, it's something else that I complain about because of how they did the blade and where they put the choil. You end up with so much handle and so much less blade, and that's okay. It's still easy to control, but the Spyderco Kapara made way better use of the amount of handle and way better use of the amount of blade. Anyways, carrying that thing in my pocket with the non-deep carry clip, it was hanging out like this much. So I spent another 20 bucks on the MXG deep carry clip, and now it carries the way that I want. The PM2 is roughly a 104. In some places it's 135, in some places it's 140. I don't know. You can find them for different prices. We're going to say 140. That's about what it is on a lot of common retailer sites. But I had to spend another 20 to get the pocket clip that I wanted. So it was it kind of turned it into a $160 knife. Now after carrying the Spyderco Kapara for a little bit, I realized the wire clip may not be my favorite thing in the world, but it carries exactly the way that I want, arguably better than the PM2 with the clip on it. So right there, I mean, the clip is just better all the way around, and the carry profile is better all the way around. I just like it. Another thing that I like a lot more than the PM2 are the contoured scales. Ooh, not only are they real carbon fiber, not laminate, they are contoured all the way around. That's that's nice. I'm still getting a full feeling in the hand. It's definitely a smaller body than the PM2. This is definitely a more robust, kind of chunky feeling, and some people are going to like that. But this knife, I can still get a great purchase on, considering where I'm putting my hands, to lock in, whether I'm choked up like this or whether I'm back here. I mean, I can get my whole hand around that. See that? And I'm not choked up. So way better use of the handle. Now, the PM2 does have a little bit more to hang on to, and it also feels like more of an outdoor work knife. So this is where a lot of people are going to split. Both of these knives are incredible performers. If you've never experienced the PM2, like I said, you should at least experience it. For a lot of people, the only route to get there is simply to order it online, right? But if you have a retailer locally who carries Spyderco knives, or a buddy who's got one, or somebody who's willing to let you demo it, from the knife community, that you should definitely experience it so you can find out hey, because this is such a weird looking knife. I've always said this, the PM2 looks like a dying pelican. I've said it so many times it's not really funny anymore, but I know some of you are hearing that for the first time and thinking, yeah, it kind of does look like that. And so does the Kapara. It just looks like a fancy dying pelican, right? Dying pelican with a top hat and a cane and a monocle. But That's actually making me laugh a lot harder now. But yeah, this is definitely a more robust feeling knife. Do I feel like it's capable of more hard use than the Kapara? No. But it just feels like a knife that is going to give you a little bit more purchase, a little bit more lock-in in a situation where you might risk dropping the knife, you know, either due to a wet or dirty environment or just general grippage on the knife. You know, you do have extra traction here, extra traction here. The standard scales on the PM2, which I actually do have in here, I have not tried to break these yet, though I've broken a lot of my other ones. These are pretty heavy peel ply textured scales. No texturing on the Kapara, so that's definitely going to be an advantage there. The disadvantage, though, in the scales is that they are so blocky. I complained about this. In fact, these are aftermarket scales that have a little bit more chamfering because the standard scales are so blocky. They're not gonna like dig into your hand, but you can see here the corners on these things. There's almost no, I mean, there's chamfering, but it's just like a 90-degree angle almost, you know? So they did a good job of knocking it down. It's just nowhere near as comfortable as the Kapara. So depends on your environment. Honestly, guys, between the two, a lot of it's gonna come down to taste. But I think the biggest factor is definitely going to be price. Like I said, the Spyderco PM2 in its base form, while it has some kind of wonky features and things that aren't going to be ideal for everybody, it still comes in at a very reasonable $140. 100% USA made S30V steel, which by the way, both of these are utilizing, and G10. It's a plenty good working tool. There's a reason why, and I could take a poll to prove this on my YouTube channel. I could list 10 of the most popular folding knives of the last decade, the PM2 being one of them, and I'll say, you guys vote for the best. And most people are going to vote PM2. How do I know this? Because I've done it multiple times on blade forms. The PM2 always gets voted the top. But that's partially due to the fact that there are so many PM2s out there. So many people have had their hands on a PM2 and actually used and gone, yeah, this is a great working tool. The Spyderco Kapara, in my opinion, definitely a better knife all the way around. If this were a battle, I would say, yeah, functionally, I mean, it has every advantage over the PM2, except for there's no jimping up top, and the access to the thumb hole is a little bit subpar compared to the Spyderco PM2. But everything else is honestly better. It's just better all the way around. I even like the blade shape better. There's even a little drop for your thumb up here. But you're going to pay for that better. How much more? Well, you're going to pay about $187 for this. I don't think that's a bad price for contoured carbon fiber, that cool red backspacer. That's cool, right? I really like that. The wire clip carries perfectly. Like I said, easy access to the thumb hole. Even though it's not quite as good as the PM2, it's still definitely good. It's still very easy to deploy and manipulate. You can still do all the little tricks. You can still do the Spidey drop, and I can run it into my camera, and I can shake things around for everybody who's trying to watch. Sorry about that. But yeah, it's a great knife. It's definitely better than the PM2, but is it worth the extra $47? That's going to be up to you guys. 47 bucks, the extra $47 you're getting a little bit better in terms of fit and finish. By the way, perfect centering on this guy, perfect drop shot action out of the box. You're getting contoured carbon fiber definitely costing a little more than G10. You're getting some nice fancy touches. You're getting a fancier item, a more refined item. Is it going to give you advantage in your an advantage in your day-to-day life? I don't know. I think both of these are going to perform equally well. But if you're the type of person like me who just like feels good about having the newest, coolest thing in your pocket and knowing that every last element of that thing has been catered to the end user, the Kapara is probably the way to go. I honestly do think the Kapara is a better knife, but it's really hard for me to say, you know, to crown the Kapara as the new king, because the Spyderco PM2 is still an incredible knife and will undoubtedly continue to be an incredible knife for years to come. Guys, that's going to be pretty much it for this comparison. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. I hope that at the very least it was entertaining. Like I said, both of these knives have links down in the description that you can use to purchase them, along with a multitude of other really popular really popular EDC items and knives for you guys to check out. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this Metal Complex logo right here and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.